So I parked there knowing that there's a opening that you can go from front to back to the business.
Okay, and there's kind of a fence with a gate right in that area, is
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
So you ran around there and went through the gate that way.
Yes, sir.
And what did you see when you got to that area?
Officer Slager was running away from Scott.
So running away from you and away from where Mr. Scott was,
Yes,
is
sir.
that correct? And where was Mr. Scott roughly?
Roughly almost close to the elementary street.
Okay. Thank you. You can resume your seat. Was Officer Banyas with you?
No, he went to the actual traffic stop.
And which was at the auto parts store, as I understand.
Yes, sir.
What did you what did you do after exiting your patrol car and going to the field and seeing what you just described? You saw Officer Slager moving away from you and Mr. Scott on the ground to the right.
I went towards Mr. Scott. Saw that he had blood on his shirt. I knelt down, tried to assess his injuries. Again, calling him sir, trying to get a response from him.
Did you have any conversation with Officer Slager when you got there?
No, sir.
Okay. What was Mr. Scott's condition when you got there?
Again, he was on his belly. His head was turned to his right. Again, I saw blood on his shirt. Didn't see any movement and didn't get any verbal response from him.
Did you try to?
I did.
Okay. Was he handcuffed?
He was.
Appeared to be dead to you at that time?
I'm not a medical professional. I didn't.
There were no signs of life then, correct?
None. No, sir.
Did you attempt to communicate with him?
I did, just by calling sir, trying to see if I can get a response, if he's okay or something.
And where was Officer Slager while you were tending to the victim?
At that time, I kind of lost track of Slager. I didn't know where he was.
Okay. At any time during this, did you see Officer Slager drop anything or pick up anything?
No, sir.
Did he assist you in tending to the victim?
No, sir.
Why not?
I don't know.
Do you recall seeing anyone else in that immediate area besides you and Officer Slager?
There was someone on the other side of the fence line.
What do you remember about that fellow?
He was just standing there. He was holding, looked like a bag or I think a cell phone or something in his other right hand.
Okay. Were you aware that he was using his phone to video y'all at the time?
When I saw the phone, I assumed, but I wasn't for certain.
Okay. Did you ever have a conversation with this person?
Later on, right before Sergeant Gann arrived, he asked me if he's going to be okay, speaking of Mr. Scott, and I replied, I don't know, I hope so. And I immediately asked him to back away from the fence.
Okay. Did you have a first aid kit with you?
It was in my car, but not on me, not with me, no.
Okay. Did you have to go get a first aid kit?
After I noticed there was no response from Mr. Scott, and I ran back, or tried to run back to get my first aid kit from my trunk.
Okay. And did you get to your car?
No, right before I got past the parking lot, Sergeant Gann notified on the radio that he was arriving on the scene, and I heard his engine from the opposite side of the fence where the individual was.
And who is Sergeant Gann?
He was our sergeant working at the time, covering both South and Central teams.
And was he your normal sergeant?
No, sir.
Who was y'all's normal sergeant?
Sergeant Webb.
What did you do after Sergeant Gann arrived?
I ran back to Mr. Scott to give Sergeant Gann a reference to where he was because he was lying on the ground still. Sergeant Gann then drove from the opening on Craig Street into the lot.
So he came down that alleyway and
Yes, sir.
then kind of made a U-turn into the yellow brick road. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And where did he park his car?
Probably 10, 15 yards from Mr. Scott.
Now, who removed the handcuffs from Mr. Scott?
After Sergeant Gann and I got the first aid kits from his trunk, I grabbed his key, handcuff key, and I removed the handcuffs.
Okay. And who removed the victim's shirt?
I did.
Mr. Scott's shirt.
I used my knife that I usually carry and cut his shirt.
And so you cut it off with your knife?
Yes, sir.
And what did you do with your knife after you cut out the shirt?
I threw it to my right. I believe I left it open.
Over on the ground?
Yes, sir.
I hand you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 15 for identification and ask if you recognize that knife.
That's my knife.
And is that the knife that you used to cut the clothing off or Mr. Scott's shirt off of him on the morning in question?
Yes, sir.
How did you retrieve that knife?
Later on, after this EMS was finished attending to Mrs. Scott, I believe one of them picked it up and just asked randomly whose knife this was, and I retrieved it from them.
Okay, because fireman saw that knife by Mr. Scott, right?
Yes, sir.
And just to be clear, that was not Mr. Scott's knife, that was your knife.
That was my knife.
Did you observe any other weapons on Mr. Scott or in his vicinity?
No, sir.
Did you observe any shell casings in the vicinity of Mr. Scott?
No, sir.
And I believe State's Exhibit, what's my number there? State's Exhibit 15 was later collected from you by Officer Peterson, or Agent Peterson. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we would offer 15, I believe, without objection from the defendants.
Submitted without objection.
Now, could you tell us a little bit about the treatment rendered to Mr. Scott? What did you and Sergeant Gann do?
After removing the handcuffs and cutting the shirt, Sergeant Gann handed me some gauze. I proceeded to pack one of the gunshot wounds with gauze, but I noticed the bleeding had stopped.
Do you recall how many gunshot wounds he had sustained, or do you remember?
I think I initially counted 4 or 5.
Okay. And where were they located on the body?
On his right side of his back.
And after you packed the wounds with gauze, what did you and Sergeant Gann do?
Sergeant Gann and I immediately put Mr. Scott on his back. Then we noticed that his eyes were open, no response. Then Sergeant Gann immediately started chest compressions.
Who started chest compression?
Sergeant Gann.
Okay. And how long did y'all end up tending to Mr. Scott there on the scene?
Sergeant Gann, I think he conducted chest compressions for a few minutes before EMS and fire arrived.
And at that time, did he let them kind of take over?
Yes, sir.
What happened after you and Sergeant Gann were relieved by EMS and the fire department?
Myself and another officer who arrived on scene later, we taped off the entire lot, not knowing where the crime scene actually occurred. After taping off the lot, I was told by a supervisor to move my car from the front of Megapond to Craig Street.
Okay, that's because the people at the pawn shop were complaining about all the police cars in their parking lot?
Yes, sir.
So you moved your car from the Megapond parking lot to where?
Craig Street.
And where did you park on Craig Street?
Not far from the opening on Craig Street. I want to say 10 yards from the opening.
Now, did you see Officer Slager when you got over to the Craig Street side again?
Yes, sir. While I was driving in, he was speaking to Lieutenant Bowman.
And was he in Lieutenant Bowman's vehicle, or?
They were outside the vehicle.
Okay. Were you asked to retrieve anything for him?
Well, Officer Slager was on the radio trying to contact Officer Banez about retrieving a wallet from his car. I knew Officer Banez was dealing with the crowd that was developing on the parking lot. So I was only 40 yards from his car, so I proceeded to run down, get his wallet for him so Banez can tend to his duties at the parking lot.
Okay. So you returned took Officer Slager's wallet?
Yes, sir.
Did you take anything else to him?
No, sir.
How about handcuffs?
That was later on.
Okay. Tell me about that.
After retrieving his wallet, Lieutenant Bowman and Slager got in, I believe it was Lieutenant Bowman's car, and drove down Craig Street into Singing Pines. I assumed to go to the other exit. A few few moments later, they turned around to come back on Craig Street. Lieutenant Bowman exited the car and left Slager in the passenger seat. I saw Slager, walked up to him to give back his cuffs and told him to ask him if he's okay. He said he's fine, but then he said, why did he do that? And he repeated that several times.
Did you know what he meant by that?
I assumed he was talking about Mr. Scott.
Officer Habersham, I would like to show you a portion of State's Exhibit 237. And I'd like to ask you some questions, if we could. Sit down while I'm doing this, kind of easier for you to operate the computer that way. Okay, this is about 1 minute into the video.
That's me.
Oh shit.
Specifically, I asked you if you saw Mr. Slager drop anything. Did you see him drop that item out of his right hand
No, sir.
as he was walking by Mr. Scott's spot?
No, sir.
Fucking abuse. Fucking abuse, man.
done?
Yes, sir.
And did you see Officer Slager pick this item up right here?
No, sir.
See my car next to Gerald's. We're behind the pawn shop.
Where are you going there?
To get my first aid kit.
That siren, that was Sergeant Gann?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to show you this second video too, just to ask you who some of the people are. Who are the two people on the right, tending to the victim?
Myself and Sergeant Gann.
And who are the two people on the left?
I will be Sergeant Webb and Slager.
Okay. And whose car is that parked back there in the background?
That will be Sergeant Gann's.
Sorry, I keep calling you officer. You're not an officer anymore, I guess. But Mr. Havisham, I'd also like to play you a portion of State's Exhibit. Number 8, I believe it is. And you worked for officers, with Officer Slager for several months, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And with Sergeant Gann and Sergeant Webb and others, are you able to recognize their voices?
Yes, sir.
And we have been through the radio transmissions in this case, and I asked you who various voices were. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were able to identify them for us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I would like to run through that again with you, and I'll occasionally stop and just ask you who is who, okay?
Good.
Dakota on a gray color Mercedes, take tag 1318 golf ball.
Who is that?
I'll be Slager.
And is that when he initially called in to stop?
Yes, sir.
So you would have been at City Hall at that time?
Yes, sir.
This is Kelly 23 at 9:33.
Five is on a records channel.
This is Kelly 55, 9:33.
Who is 55?
I'll be Sergeant Gann.
And just to be clear, this is a recording of the radio transmissions related to this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in real time?
No, sir.
I mean, it's not now.
Okay.
In other words, the pauses in this tape are the same as the pauses
Oh.
in
This
the.
is
Yes,
801.
sir.
That's the dispatcher.
Yes, sir.
801. Zone 8, the stolen vehicle occurred overnight, 2426 Woodstock Avenue, 2426 Woodstock, from Thielen. A female complainant requested to meet in person. Copy.
That was not related to this case, correct?
No, sir.
So at this time, you're still in city hall,
Yes, sir.
and you have no reason to be concerned.
No.
Two 23 dispatch 1080 on foot, down Craig Street, black male, green shirt, move hands.
Okay, what was that?
I was Officer Slager advising dispatch. He's 1080 on foot.
Okay, and that's what caused you to respond from city hall, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Black male, green shirt, blue pants, down Craig Street. All units north in emergency status due to 223 chasing on foot.
Five dispatch a copy. I'm en route from Scarsboro Coast.
That's Sergeant Gann.
241's en route.
Yes, sir.
Dispatch copy, 936.
I'm diverting en route to help 223. What's your direction travel there?
Who is that?
That was me.
Where you at now?
Turn right down Craig Street, right on the grove. Turn right down yellow driveway to the pawn shop.
That's what you were referring to during your testimony where he advised you of his location.
Yes, sir.
Talk about more rivers heading that way now.
That would be you again?
Yes, sir.
156, step it up.
That would be Officer Slater.
Yes, sir.
Am I running cold?
55 dispatch, give me a call for Craig.
Remount Road next to the Money Man and the fire station.
I'm at the rivers in the pawn shop. Where you at now?
That's after you parked at the pawn shop?
Yeah, I think I was actually parking right now.
Okay.
23 dispatch, shots fired. Subject is down. You grab my taser.
Dispatch
And that would obviously be who?
Slager.
copy 223, shots fired. He grabs your taser. Subject is down at 938.
34 copies on the route.
Copy 34, 938.
.241's in area. I'm gonna attempt to locate him.
Who's 240?
Dispatch copy 938.
Pawn shop.
That'll be Officer
Rivers.
Banez.
Sorry.
That's Officer Banez.
5 dispatch starting in west.
Dispatch copy.
A kid. Come join me behind the pawn shop.
Who's that?
That was me.
223 dispatch. I need to secure my vehicle.
Who's that?
And was Slager.
Car 223.
Route T, where's your vehicle?
Remount Dakota was the location of the stop.
241 dispatch, and where those vehicles, the Vance Auto Parts.
Highway 241, securing vehicle at Advanced Auto.
223, are you 10-4? Everyone's 10-4, just for the suspect. He's going to come behind the squad shot with a kit. Gunshot wound, looks like the chest, to the right side, all responsive. I copy, make sure the scene's secure. It is. Look at another gunshot wound to the butt. 348 round.
Confirm location.
That is you calling in the victim's condition and the location.
Yes, sir.
Now, here, I've heard on that, you said something about a gunshot wound to the chest. Tell us about that.
He was bleeding from the upper chest as well before we turned him over, so I didn't actually see that wound until after we flipped him over and began chest compressions.
Okay. And so after you turned him over, you saw a wound on in his chest?
It was above the clavicle, yes, sir.
Okay. And do you know if that was an entrance or an exit wound?
It looked larger than the ones on his back.
What does that generally mean?
It was an exit wound.
Okay. Could you please answer any questions Mr. Savage may have?
So, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Mr. Former Officer Habersham
Yes, sir.
just left the police department not too long ago.
Yes, sir.
Currently a district manager for a private enterprise.
Yes, sir.
As I understood the questions from the prosecutor, you went to Elon College, is that correct?
Elon University. Yes, sir.
And you were there on a football scholarship.
Yes, sir.
And since that time, have you maintained your physical health?
Yes, sir.
As a member of the North Charleston Police Department, did you maintain your physical health?
Yes, sir.
In fact, not just were you a patrol officer, but you had other assignments during your, what is it, 9 years at North Charleston?
Yes, sir.
You worked on the SWAT team.
Yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about what the SWAT team is.
This is a team that, we get called out to high-risk situations. It would be hostage, barricaded suspect, search warrants, what have you. We wear tactical equipment, vests with ceramic plates, helmets, boots, gas masks, firearm, handgun, and depending on the equipment we use, a shield or a ram.
The SWAT team practices extraction techniques and active shooter techniques and all crisis situations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We normally or try to train 2 times a month.
And during the year, do you have firearms training?
Yes, sir. That's incorporated on at least once a month.
And how often would that same firearms training be taught to regular patrol officers?
Very regularly, if any.
So in comparing firearms training for SWAT to a patrol officer, would it be twice as much or 3 times as much?
At the very least, twice as much.
And when you have firearms training, either as a SWAT officer or as a patrolman, are you taught, are you trained to fire a shot in the air to warn people?
No, sir.
Are you trained to fire close by somebody so that they can scare them into surrender?
No, sir.
Are you trained to shoot somebody in the ankle or the leg or the arm or the finger to caution them that next step they could lose their life?
No, sir.
When you're trained either in the SWAT team or on the patrol team at firearms training, what are you trained to do?
To stop the threat.
And is that to shoot at center mass?
Ideally, yes, sir.
And center mass would be the core of the body.
Yes, sir.
That's what the training employs.
Yes, sir.
Now, in that training, if there is a threat that would cause somebody to fire a weapon, when do you stop firing the weapon?
When the threat's been stopped or the threat's been eliminated.
So if somebody is running, the training says to stop when the person goes down.
Yes, sir.
That's the training you receive.
You shoot to eliminate the threat.
Now, you were on the job for 9 years and you knew of Officer Slager before he was transferred to the day shift. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And his reputation with the North Charleston Police Department was what?
He was a proactive police officer, professional. I didn't hear any negative things about him before he came to the team.
Did he have a reputation as a hothead?
I didn't get that impression from anyone.
Was he a guy that displayed anger?
Again, I didn't.
Did he tell racial jokes, or did he tell anything that would cause you concern about his racial animus?
No, sir.
Was he known as a peacemaker in the community?
I would say so.
Did his supervisors put him in the most difficult situations as a patrolman to calm things down?
Again, I didn't see that while I was working with him, so I don't know that for certain. But
So when he was in South, you were already in Central.
yes, sir.
Now, in Central, the solicitor, do you have that map still?
I don't have the map. I'm sorry, I haven't listened to this testimony.
Well, I would.
You don't have to, okay, give them that. Let me see what I have for you. Yeah, what is it? I don't have his own time.
The city of North Charleston is divided into 3 bureaus, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the South Bureau would be the area in North Charleston closest to the city of Charleston, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the Central Bureau is Midtown,
Yes, sir.
and the North Bureau would be up by the mall, Tanger, and going up to Somerville, is that correct?
More only actually falls straight up. Yes, sir.
So the area we're talking about, and hopefully we'll get a map for the jury to see, but it's close to the airport. It's east of the airport.
Is east of the airport.
And tell me, I'm going to continue to call you officer because I'm in that mind frame of when you worked at North Charleston, Officer Habersham. Did the patrol division, were they designated certain areas that were more problematic in terms of crime than other areas?
I tend to see that supervisors who thought individuals were more proactive were put in the more high crime areas.
And is it fair to say that Charleston Farms was one of those areas?
Yes, sir.
And that's an area right off Remount Road, from Remount Road south towards the city, 6 blocks or so.
Yes, sir.
And it runs from Rivers Avenue east to where?
North Rec.
And do you know what ComStat is?
I have a fairly understanding of ComStat.
So at the morning briefings or the pre-duty briefings, there was a report made by management, the sergeants, the lieutenants, about a specialized area that needed more attention. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And those were based on ComStat statistics.
Yes, sir.
And where you were working in Central was the most problematic area in terms of crime statistics in Central. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And in accordance with that, although you were assigned to Zone 4, your patrol area was just around Charleston Farms.
More or less, you stayed in that area more often than not.
And in the area that you were assigned to patrol, Officer Slager was also assigned to patrol.
Yes, sir. He was my Zone 4 partner.
So you would work in tandem around that sort of racetrack area in Charleston Farms.
Yes, sir.
Never more than a minute and a half apart should there be a problem. Is that correct?
That would be the idea, yes, sir.
And the whole idea of that was to make sure that there was sufficient police presence if something went wrong. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And had you been on your regular assignment that morning, you would have been a minute and a half away from Patrolman Slager. At most.
At most, I'd probably be rolling with them.
15 seconds, 20 seconds, 5 seconds.
Yes, sir.
But at the very most, in the worst case scenario, a minute and a half.
Yes, sir.
Now, you listened earlier when the prosecutor played a lot of dead time on the audio.
Mm-hmm.
Was that more than a minute and a half?
I don't know.
So the first time you heard Slager on the radio that was just played was when he was stopping the vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And it's your practice, as it is the other patrol officers in North Charleston, when they hear somebody is being stopped for a traffic violation, you go in that direction.
It's common practice, yes, sir.
Because you look out for one another. You protect each other, because in a traffic stop, you never know what it's going to bring.
Correct.
Could be nothing, could be a shootout.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you go on traffic stops, you don't wear the protective device and the armament that you do when you're on the SWAT team, do you?
No, sir.
The fact that officers back each other up, that is what is practiced in North Charleston. That's how you run your day. If you are stopping a vehicle, Habersham goes in your direction, and you typically would go by and make sure everything's okay. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That didn't happen this day.
No, sir.
Because on the Team 1 shift in Central, there should have been a sergeant on duty that day,
Correct.
and it wasn't.
No, sir.
There should have been 6 patrolmen on duty that day, and it wasn't.
No, sir.
The people who weren't on duty that day had put in for leave weeks before. Isn't that correct?
believe people who didn't show up that day were on annual leave. I think so.
And one of the officers that was assigned to be on duty that day never even came to Central. She was sent down to the hospital that morning.
Yes, sir.
And Officer Bainus, who should have been on patrol in Central that morning, was sent to pick up an iPad for some tourist who had left it in a rental car. Is that correct?
I believe that was the call he was, yes, sir.
Your Honor, I'm going to have to capture him, but he's testifying. If he wants to ask him a question whether he knew this or something like that, that's fine. He's making statements.
This is
Counsel will approach, please.
We're going to recess for the day. This time I understand one of the jurors has an issue. We're going to reconvene Monday morning at 9 o'clock. I want to reiterate my admonition that you're not to seek out any additional information concerning this case or be exposed to any other information, be unfair to your fellow jurors and in violation of your oath, because you are sworn to decide the case based on the evidence presented in this courtroom only, applying the law as I give it to you. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you back Monday morning at what time? 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. Very good.